Yeah. Okay. Well, I better tell you something. Tyler's helped me so much with this. So all the good stuff on here is by Tyler Randolph. So just know that. I appreciate his help so much.
One question for you, Michelle, before we start. So for these like embedded videos,
it'd be wonderful to see all of you right now, but I can't. But anyhow, I welcome you all, and I thank you for giving me the honor of talking a little bit about my English organ music of the 19th, 20th, and 21st centuries. And so here we go. Some of you who were here the last time or listened to the last time can make some connections. Some of this, it would have been easier if you heard the first session, but I'll try to make it as clear as I can. Okay, so Rafe Vaughan Williams. You all see Rafe?
Yep.
Yeah, you can all see Rafe. Okay. 1872 to 1958. Was a student of Perry and a student of Stanford. And by the way, soon to be published by Oxford is the Stanford Organ Album. Soon to be published. I have my name in to get a copy as soon as it's published. I hope there are not too many pieces that I already have of Stanford, but I think that there are at least 3 or 4 new pieces, and I'll buy the collection for that. If you can believe it, I'm still buying organ music, and you think I would retire from that, but my wife is starting to get a little bit uptight with me buying so much music. More of our mailman has to come up through the yard to deliver it instead of just sticking it in the mailbox. But I've always loved music, and I continue to, even though I'm in my advanced years. Let's say it that way. Ralph Vaughan Williams. Okay. Fashioned a style all of his own, including the use of British folk music with its characteristic of modal tonalities. Vaughan Williams was one of the greatest symphonists in the 20th century. He wrote 9 symphonies, just like who? Okay, I'll say most of you said it's Beethoven. There were actually a few more that wrote 9 symphonies, but let's not get into that yet. All right, so, but in his early years, he edited the English hymnal 1906, for which he contributed 5 tunes of his own. Now, we know that he wrote a lot of, he gathered folk tunes with his friend Cecil Sharp, went through the counties of England, Sussex, Lancashire, Yorkshire, and collected fine folk tunes, and he harmonized them, beautiful harmonizations, and then included them in his hymnal of 1906. But plus, he wrote 5 hymns. Can you imagine this symphonist? 9 different symphonies and cantatas and great choral works and chamber music. So many different genres of music, but he still loved hymns and loved doing the hymnal of 1906. Now, I could ask a question. I don't know whether I can or not, the way we are right now, but I was going to ask you if you could name all 5 hymns, hymn tunes. There's something different between hymns and hymn tunes. I hope you understand that. The hymn tune is the tune that the hymn is sung to. Hymns are actually the poetry. we all say we'll sing hymn number 915. Well, if we were smart, we would just read it without a tune, you see. We were acting smart. But just remember that. It's the hymn tune and then the hymn itself. But anyhow, so Vaughan Williams wrote 5 hymn tunes. Now, who could name them all? I don't hear anything. Name a couple. Jacob, I'll start with you because I can see you.
Is Forest Green?
That's one of the folk tunes that he gathered and harmonized and used in his 1906 hymnal, yes. Anybody want to
The most
try?
obvious would be Se Nomine.
Pardon?
The most obvious would be Se Nomine for all the saints.
Right, we all love it. Is this Albert?
Yeah.
I think it was Albert.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sine Nomine for all the saints. Oh, what a great hymn. I want that at my funeral. Don't forget. All right, another tune.
Kingsfold.
Pardon?
Kingsfold?
Kings.
Did he write Kingsfold?
Kingsfold. That's another folk tune that he gathered and harmonized and put a sacred text to it, or other people put sacred text to it. Yes. Another one. Well, some of you might know Down Ampney. Come down, O love divine. That wonderful text that we sometimes do on Pentecost or in that season. That Down Ampney, he gave the name to his tune, Down Ampney, because that's where he lived. That's where he was born, in Down Ampney, England. And how about Salve Festa Deus? Yeah, I've never been brave enough to teach that to my congregation. And it was only just recently that we even had it in our new Glory to God hymnal in the Presbyterian Church. But I hope maybe John might get brave enough to do that for the church members, because it's such a wonderful hymn. But it can be a little bit tough for laymen. Let's see. Another one. That's 3. Another one. Ever hear of King's Weston? We often sing, at the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow, to that King's Weston melody. Wonderful tune, too. And actually, I don't want to go into a lot of this, but King's Weston was really the Queen's castle or big home in the country. And then it went to different people who had bought the home. And finally, one of Vaughan Williams' very close friends bought it. And Vaughan Williams went there for inspiration at this big home. And Vaughan Williams wrote, some of you might even know, the wonderful tone poem, The Ascending, or The Lark Ascending. It's for violin and orchestra. The violin part is just fantastic, and it represents the lark. It's all about the English lark ascending. It's a tone poem. It's picturesque. But anyhow, okay, King's Weston, and then the last one.
I don't know.
This is a tough one. This was called Randolph. Not any relation to Tyler, but Randolph, the hymn tune Randolph. And this particular tune is very, very beautiful. It's named because the text writer's name was William Randolph Hearst, H-E-R-S-T. And so the first tune we're going to hear is a hymn, and a hymn tune with the text. Okay, this is God Be With You Till We Meet Again, sung to Randolph.
Oh, whoops. Sorry. I didn't realize I would stop that. I was trying to open the score to follow along. Oh, gosh. Oops. Oh, dear.
That's okay. We've heard enough of that. A short little tune, but a wonderful tune to use for that text, which is, I think the text is pretty popular in most churches. God be with you till we meet again. All right, let's go on. Okay, Tyler, you can change it now. Okay, now, Vaughan Williams' most popular organ work is his three preludes, is his three preludes on Welsh hymn tunes. The first one, Bryn Calfaria. The second, and by the way, Bryn Calfaria means in Welsh, Hill of Calvary, Hill of Calvary. And then we're going to listen to this soon, but Vaughan Williams' setting is very, very much like a fantasy, or the English would say fantasia. And its tone painting is evocative of a Welsh landscape. I am so reminded of the old 1941 movie, How Green Was My Valley, with Walter Pidgeon and Maureen O'Hara. Now, I know most of you probably think, what is he talking about? Well, get on Turner Classic Movies, black and white. My wife watches all of them, and enjoy the Turner Classic movie called How Green Was My Valley. But anyhow, this is a story about a mining family in South Wales in the 19th century. On the way to and from the mines, the men sing Bryn Calfaria, and the other one they sing is Cumranda. You all know Cumranda. That's an old favorite. Okay, and so we're going to hear Bryn Calfaria. And if you haven't learned to play this, it's lots of fun and much harder than the other ones. Okay. Now, most of you know Rosa Medra. I would say a good many of you played Rosa Medra. It's just a perfect piece. I'm not going to do it because I think most of you know it, and I've heard some of you play it, and I really, really love it. I use it for weddings. I use it for funerals. I use it for preludes. I use it for during communion. It's wonderful. Rosa Medra is the name of a village, a little village in Wales, and sometimes if you have the score, it says Rosa Medra, then underneath Rosa Medra it says lovely. You ever noticed that? I remember once my undergraduate professor, I went to hear her play at her church, and she had as the prelude, lovely. And I thought, that was a little bit, kind of weird. But then I finally learned out why she put lovely in the bulletin. She was a little eccentric at times, and so anyhow, lovely by Rafe Vaughan Williams. But anyhow, wonderful tune. Don't play it too slowly, and don't play it too quickly. That thing is, if it's slow, it puts you to sleep. And besides, Vaughan Williams marks andantino, not even andante, and certainly not adagio. So move it along. Sometimes if it's not quick enough, you lose the tune, which is in the tenor. You just can't make it out because it's so slow. Now, don't go home and play it presto, but I mean, just be musical with it and listen to it carefully. The third is the much loved tune. Well, you get hifridal, you get hyfridal, you get hyfridal, but folks, I'm not being smart, but I was so lucky. We hosted 3 Welsh choirs at First Presbyterian in my 52 years there, and 2 from Wales and 2 from Canada, Toronto, and yeah, 3, 2 from Wales and 1 from Toronto. But my thought of it was this: I want to learn how to pronounce some of these tunes correctly. So I said to the director, how do you pronounce Hyfrydol? And she said, Ovredol. Ovredol. So you can be a little bit uppity sometime and say, would you please turn to page 26 so we can sing the tune Ovredol? And they won't know what you're talking about, of course, because they've always heard it as Hyfridol. No big deal. I think this piece is the most Vaughan Williams of all of the pieces, the most sounding like Vaughan Williams. All right, published by Stainer and Bell. You can get these, go to Sheet Music Plus. Anybody go use Sheet Music Plus? I do a lot. You get on it. And, Rosa Medra, 3 Welsh hymn preludes is going to be there, believe me. All right. I am pleased to own a Vaughan Williams organ album published by Oxford University Press. There is an arrangement of Vaughan Williams' Fantasia on Greensleeves without the B section, Lovely Joan, which he uses as one of the folk tunes of his folk tune revival, so to speak. And there are just 2 really real organ pieces based on 2 hymn tunes, St. David's Day and The White Rock. All right. Well, there are more Vaughan Williams pieces, but I picked ones that I thought would be interesting and good to know about. And that's, by the way, that's published by Oxford University Press. Oxford, Vaughan Williams organ album. If you want to play Fantasia on green sleeves on Christmas Eve, it's a lovely setting of it. The harmonies are just beautiful, and what Vaughan Williams does with it. All right, we're still in the same chapter, folks. I'll move along here. James Leith McBain. James Leith Macbeth Bain of Scotland spontaneously composed a lovely tune that is referred to as Brother James Eyre. Staples in the complete church choral library. And you can get it unison, descant unison. You can sing it all in unison. You have a children's choir and a descant, and then the SATB arrangement. And these are both published by Oxford. And I used them right away in my early days of being a church musician, especially the one in unison. All right. Now, there are two favorites of Brother James Eyre. And by the way, the Psalm 23 is sung to Brother James Eyre. The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me down to lie in pastures green. How many know Brother James Eyre? Just put your hand up or something. It's an old favorite. You'll love it. My two favorite organ arrangements are by Harold Darke, 1888 to 1976, and M. Cyril Wright, 1918 to 2004. Darke studied with Charles Stanford and was professor of organ at the Royal College of Music. Choirs have fallen in love with his choral setting of Christina Rossetti's poem, In the Bleak Midwinter. Frosty wind made moan. If you don't know that text of Christina Rossetti, it's wonderful, beautiful text. And it's set to music by Harold Darke. It made him world famous, especially the King's College Choir, Cambridge. Actually, Darke directed the music there for a while, and he wrote it really initially for the King's College Choir in Cambridge. All right, now my other favorite arrangement of Brother James Eyre is by Cyril Wright. And Cyril Wright is American. And I deviate a little bit here just because I'm dealing with this tune and I have two favorite settings of it. And it's basically a Scottish tune. And it's dear to me because I'll tell you, this is one of my first recital pieces. M. Cyril Wright's Brother James Eyre. So let's listen to it. M. Cyril Wright, I asked Sylvia, who went to Union Seminary in New York City when it was still there, the musical part of it. And she had heard of Wright, and Wright had played the organ in New York City. She never had a course with him, but he taught at Union Theological Seminary in New York City, and also was organist and at St. Paul's Chapel at Columbia University. All right, both arrangements are colorful, both beginning with soft strings. If you can get some good Aeolian Skinner strings and not keen bacon frying Skinner strings. That's one of the only few things I haven't learned to like about Skinner's sound. Those warm ones. Unfortunately, I picked one where you had warm you hear warm strings. It begins softly, goes to a large middle section, and then down the hill to soft again, and ending with soft strings and 32-foot pedal note. All right, so let's hear this M. Seal Wright, Brother James air. Okay, we've got a long last chord there. Isn't it something that there are certain pieces that you play that you just feel like you just don't even want to lift your hands from the keyboard? It's such a beautiful, sometimes I have to be very careful of that. All right, we're going to go to a really fun kind of guy, I guess. You might have not recognized all the music that you've heard so far. but I don't know whether you've heard of this Sorjo Alexander William Longobard Oliphant Chuckerbuddy, 1884 to 1960. I didn't know about him either for a long time. Just recently, and I thought, what an interesting name, and he supposedly wrote this paean, so I got on my favorite Petrucci. I'm going to call it Petrucci because I get the INSLP. Is that right?
Yeah, you got it right.
I got it right there. I get those all mixed up. I'm not good with those things. Sitting in a meeting these days, as I used to, you heard about the FCUC, of the AUB, of the NBC. All of these, what are they called? Anacronyms, where you just got the first letter of the committee of each of the, whatever the committee's name was, you got the first letter of each word. Very hard. Okay, so Chuckerbuddy was a fellow of the Royal College of Organists and played in churches and cinemas. Warm up the tuba, as it or a large trumpet is needed to bring off this very unique and short postlude that very few play. But if you get on Petrucci, you can get it and have a postlude.
Or it's in that file that I sent you.
Oh, pardon?
That file that I.
Oh, it's in the file. Okay.
And just imagine the acronym of this guy's name.
Yeah.
SAWLOC.
I played it in church just one time, but I never put all the name. I called him Oliphant Chuckerbuddy. I think that the secretary would have a hard time dealing with that name for the bulletin. So, okay, here we go. Let's hear this great little piece. You go ahead. Get started. Alec Rowley, Rowley, Alec Rowley, 1892 to 1958, studied at the Royal Academy of Music and taught at Trinity College in London. The organist in my maternal grandmother's church, the Otterbein United Methodist Church, where Jacob Bruce is the organist and director of music. Anyhow, the organist was Louise Graff in those days, and they had a pipe organ. And I always remember Louise saying, in the pedal organ, they have two sounds, the big boom and the little boom, the Borden and the Lieblickedeck, all from one rank. But it wasn't a terribly small organ, maybe about 17, 18 ranks. And it was in front of the church where the choir sits now. That was the choir, the organ chamber. But anyhow, Louise Graff loved to play Alec Rowley. And when I was a little kid, I loved to go to church, and I never wanted to miss the prelude. So she would play these, and I wrote them down and remembered them and ordered them. And for a while, they were kind of out. But some of them are coming back, and people were playing a little Alec Rowley again. I remember she played Solemn Prelude from the 5 Improvisations, and Triumph Song, and several hymn tune settings, including the Fantasy on Veni Emmanuel, his Benedictus, not his second Benedictus, I don't like especially. It expresses with great beauty the words of English Christina Rossetti, I bring refreshment, I bring ease and calm, published by Novello, and is available through Al Leonard. But if you don't tell anybody, it's in Petrucci. All of the Rowley pieces are in Petrucci. So get them out and try them. I like the 5 Improvisations are great. The Benedictus is the regular, not the second Benedictus. The Benedictus is interesting and beautiful. And then, but you might find other ones, like there's a Triumph Song that was popular. And some of these things are coming back, and you'll see them in the TAO and recitals sometimes. But anyhow, so published, you can get this through Hal Leonard very quickly, and probably through Sheet Music Plus. Let's listen to Alec Rowley's Benedictus, which I think is his most perfect, his best organ piece. I'm afraid we're going to have to cut some of these just because of I don't want to keep you here till tomorrow morning, like 12 o'clock, 12:01. Now, the next article in the TAO was Article 6 on Percy Whitlock and Bridge. Okay, Percy Whitlock. Percy Whitlock's obituary states that he had the most extraordinary and endearing personal qualities. His personality carried with it an atmosphere of serenity and gentleness. He too had a virile wit and a sense of fun. This is from the Musical Opinion, June of 1946. Whitlock had a great reputation in his years 1903 to 1946. He had a great reputation as an organist and composer because from all reports, his playing was exemplary and his music is tuneful and beautifully crafted. He was a student of Stanford and Ralph Vaughan Williams and is considered a post-romantic composer. Like so many organists of his generation, he played for church, performance in concert halls. That's what they did. They played in church or they played in concert halls, and there were lots of them in England at that time. When he wasn't making music, he built elaborate clocks. I started playing Whitlock in the 1970s. His music touches my soul very deeply. He wrote a great organ symphony and an organ sonata in C minor, and 2 fantasy chorales. But it is his shorter pieces and the Plymouth suite that really interests me. Whitlock's shorter organ works were originally published by Oxford in separate volumes. Now you can buy them all under one cover and through Oxford or through some Sheet Music Plus. You can buy all the complete shorter works by Whitlock under one cover at this point. All of the shorter works under one cover. Now the pieces that I've played and especially like, I'll go through very quickly, Exultemus and Sortie, Pazienza in the second volume, but still under all one cover. Folk tune, beautiful tune and arrangement of it, inspired by the English folk tune revival of the Whitlock's time. Well, there was Vaughan Williams. What was he doing? So this tune is beautiful and represents the love of the English folk tune, but it's not an original folk tune. It's one that Whitlock composed and then wrote on. And then in number 4, Darwall's 148th and King's Lynn, number 5, in that last section. But you'll find them all in the book, in the shorter pieces. All right, so we were going to do something here, but we're going to go on now to a piece that I've really always liked. And Whitlock went on a trip to Plymouth in southwest England to attend a convention of the Incorporated Association of Organists. The Plymouth Suite, was inspired by his visit. It has 5 movements, one dedicated to an organist who attended the convention, and sometimes has the same spirit in the music as was the organist's spirit. It kind of reminds us of Elgar and the Enigma variations, where Elgar, had a tone picture of different people that he knew and he liked, including his wife and dog, by the way. All right, now he wrote 5 movements to this particular piece, and we could listen to all of them, but we don't have a time, but Allegro Risoluto is one, Lantana, or the Wayfaring Tree, is another, Chanty is another. Oh, let me read what he wrote, who he dedicated Chanty to. By the way, I play this for weddings. I like it. He dedicated it to Dr. Reginald Dixon, who was regarded as generally a naughty boy at any party. So, a sprightly hornpipe for manuals only. I have played this for several weddings. I should say there are 2 pedals at the end, C and F, but the rest is manuals. Beautiful little hornpipe, beautiful. I don't know about you, but for weddings, I like to play cheerful things as well as slower and lyric things, and this works that way very well. All right, so the next movement after Chanty is called Salix, or the Weeping Willow, and then the final one, which we're going to listen to, is Toccata, a brilliant work in the French manner of Belmont, Henri Moulet, and Gigoux. Well, we could even say Vidor if we want to, but uses a little bit later harmonic development than Vidor, of course. The Whitlock Trust for the promotion of Whitlock's music is on Facebook. Check it out. Now, we're going to listen to Nigel Potts, who is an English fellow who came to our country, who is working here now, but lived in New York for a while. His grandmother studied with Ralph Vaughan Williams, and he's going to play for us the final movement of the Plymouth Suite called Toccata, and Nigel Potts is going to play on the river, or is playing on the Riverside organ, the big Aeolian Skinner organ, which is not the largest organ in New York City. When you look at it, you think, oh my gosh, 5 manuals, and just look at those stops, and look at the expression pedals. This organ was designed by Virgil Fox when he was organist at Riverside. Anyhow, let's listen to Nigel Fox play on this gigantic organ, Toccata by Percy Whitlock. Okay. We're going to do a little Frank Bridge, 1879 to 1941, who was a student of Charles Villiers Stanford at the Royal College of Music in London. He was an extremely accomplished violin and viola player. We know him primarily as the teacher of Benjamin Britten. He wrote much chamber music, but his contributions to the organ are small. 3 pieces in 1905 and 6 pieces in 1919, and then a piece in a little organ book in memory of Hubert Parry, which I talked about last time. But I think the most beautiful, my favorite I have 2 favorites of Frank Bridge, 2 favorite pieces, and one is the Adagio in E major, which begins very quietly with a theme in the tenor, and then continues with the theme in the I'll just say it this way. It starts in the tenor, and gradually all 4 voices, you've heard the theme in all 4 voices. And you have what probably we would call in form and analysis a fugato. Basically, a little bit of contrapuntal music, and then the rest is homophonic, it's chordal. This is another one of those pieces that begins softly, builds to full organ, and comes back down again. I love that kind of a piece, but you can't play that kind of a piece every Sunday. If you're playing, you need to vary your styles a bit, I'm afraid. I'm not afraid. I think it's good. All right. Let's see. I have a little story on the Adagio in E. Shortly, well, we were very honored at First Presbyterian Church to, in 1991, host a telecast worldwide for the Desert Memorial Service. Desert Memorial Service telecast worldwide by CNN. Shortly after that, Senator John Hines, who attended the memorial service, was sadly killed in a plane crash. I got a call from the Washington National Cathedral about the last preludial piece I played for the Desert Storm Memorial. Senator Hines wrote on a program how much he liked the piece, and so he was moved by the piece, and the family wanted it played at his service in Washington at the cathedral. So I assured them that Douglas Major, then organist and choir master, would play it beautifully. And so we'll listen to John Scott play the work. John Scott was organist and choir master at, when I think I'm going to forget, I forget. But anyhow, at the cathedral on Fifth Avenue, the Episcopal Cathedral, Fifth Avenue, St. Thomas's, thank you, St. Thomas's. And he died at a fairly early age of heart problems. He was, after a European tour, he had a very bad heart attack and took him to the hospital, and he died. He was replaced by a fellow that we listened to last week, playing Stanford, and he's been replaced, and that fellow has been replaced. So it's been a while since John Scott was there. Not really, because some of the tenures have been short or were short. All right, so we're going to listen to this wonderful piece, and we're going to listen to part of it. It goes up the hill from soft string stops to full organ, and then back it down again. I think we'll just take it to the top of the hill and cut it. Okay. out it comes. Two very, very softest strings on the organ, and pedal 32. Now, when I celebrated my 50th year at First Presby, I made a CD called Celebration, 50 years of preludes and postludes at First Presbyterian Church. And that's it. That's okay. We'll start back. And so we'll listen to just a little of this piece. This goes the other way: big, soft, big. So what we'll do is we'll go from the big to the soft, and you can imagine what the rest of it sounds like. This is my second favorite piece of Frank Bridges' music for organ. Okay. Now, believe it or not, we're into Article 7, and this is the last article or the last section. I hope you're okay. I'm sorry I'm over time. We've already had a good hour of this, but if you need to put your head down, that's okay. I don't mind at all. George Oldroyd, probably I'd like to do a choral piece, just a little bit of George Oldroyd's Prayer to Jesus. Probably Dr. Oldroyd is remembered more for this choral piece than a lot of things, and so we'll hear just a little bit of it. It's Richard Rolle, R-O-L-L-E. Oldroyd uses his text, his poetry, and he wrote a lot of it. He was lived in the 1300s and was a mystic, was a hermit, and he just loved writing poetry. And it's been, reworked. If you have a score, you'll see some early English in the music, but it's not that hard to understand or pronounce. It's very, very simple. So let's hear just a little bit of Prayer to Jesus. This is sung by the National Choir of the Lutheran Church, which is a wonderful choir. You know what? That's an unbelievable line. Is it this right?
Yeah, I think I can hear us.
Okay. No.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now we're not going to listen to any organ music, but let me just talk a little bit about it in case you want to go out or go to Sheet Music Plus, or more stuff through Oxford University Press. You'll find a lot of English music through that, and through Novello, and a lot of you know that, I'm sure, Stainer and Bell, but loads of music through Oxford. All right, now I love to play his 3 liturgical improvisations for organ, and they're perfect examples of the lush romantic compositional writing in the early 20th century. The first improvisation is a tone sketch, and all 3 are tone sketches of, you understand that it's just expressing in music the feeling and meaning of the text in this case. So Psalm 89, my soul has a desire and longing to enter into the courts of the Lord. You could put that in the bulletin, liturgical improvisation, Percy Whitlock. My soul has a desire, Psalm 19 or 97, Psalm 97. Okay, no, Psalm 89, I'm sorry, 89. No, I don't know all my Psalms. Last night, and I do this, I listen to virtual services a lot, spend a lot of my time doing that. And last night, I happened to see on the web, on a website that Trinity Church, Trinity Episcopal Church in Bloomington, Indiana, home of Indiana University, Bloomington, the church service, Trinity Church was on. And so I clicked, and sure enough, there's Marilyn Kaiser, who, by the way, was taught at Indiana University for many years, was named professors, chancellor of music, and is retired. And she's older than I am. I first heard her play in 1965 at the Riverside Church in New York City, where she was the associate organist to Fred Swan. And when I told her that, she just absolutely was, here I am, and telling her I was there. And the big thing of it is, for the day, Martin Luther King was the guest minister and preacher. And I went with a friend, and we were the last two that were admitted to the sanctuary. The others were at different locations. But back to Marilyn Kaiser and back to Oldroyd. So I listened to her prelude, and sure enough, it was one of these 3 liturgical improvisations published by Oxford. And number 1 is the one she played, the one I just read briefly or talked briefly about. And it was just wonderful, of course, as Marilyn's playing always is. And but I was really thrilled to see her, and to I knew she played there, but I had no idea that I could get on virtually and hear her play every Sunday. But anyhow, okay, so here it is. This is what
And she was at Union when I was.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
hallelujah.
She was 1 year ahead of me, so I'm a year older than you, and she's 2 years older than you.
Oh, my. Well, almost. We won't.
I think. Anyway, she was there.
Yeah.
A student, yeah.
We've kept in Sylvia, we've kept in touch here and there because some of my students have gone there from Seton Hill, and some of my private students. And so we just every once in a while, not often, but what a wonderful woman she is, and what great talent. And she was here for one of our grant recitals. You never heard anything about Marilyn Kaiser? Just Google her. You'll get lots of stuff. Or Google Trinity Episcopal Church in Bloomington, Indiana, where you'll find, all of her program. She's very lucky. She has that huge school and wonderful music department to help her. And it's just a very small little Episcopal church with a little, rather smallish 2-manual organ. And she's just enjoying it. And from what I understand, Sylvia, she doesn't plan to quit. Bravo for her. Okay, so they're all beautiful. My favorite is number 2, though. It's built on the chant Conditer Alme, and you can play that for Advent. And the last one is for Pentecost, and it rips Norton big full organ. And I think it's marked FFF. Are there 4 at the end here? I was wondering how I would do that at First Presby without insulting.
Oh, there's only 3.
Yeah, just 3 Fs. Okay, you got to find 4 Fs in Rager, Max Rager. 4 Fs, 4 Ps, and that kind of thing. You people who play Max Rager. All right, so our last one. Sorry.
There we go.
All right, Herbert Howells. And, well, I love Herbert Howells. When I was in high school, I'll just tell you a story. I began to listen to the evening rebroadcast of the Sunday service of the Shadyside Presbyterian Church in Pittsburgh. Russell G. Wickman, organist and director of music. In those days, the anthems and their composers were announced, plus the hymns, before the broadcast, which was 11:07. I don't know whether that's anymore or not, but anyhow, I haven't listened to it for a long time if it is. In those days, the anthems and the composers were announced. I had a little notebook, and I religiously wrote down all of the anthems that I heard and underlined the ones that I especially liked. A Spotless Rose, Pray for the Peace of Jerusalem, Like as the Heart, all by this English composer whose name was Herbert Norman Howells. 1892, 1983, born in Lydney, Gloucestershire. I later learned about his many settings of the Anglican liturgy and many other settings, many other pieces of great music. Like so many British composers, Herbert Howells's music education began in the choir stalls in the parish church and cathedral. Howell's early study was with Herbert Brewer, organist of Gloucestershire Cathedral. If you've not heard Brewer's March Heroic, listen to it on YouTube. He began writing symphonic and chamber music, but that all changed when his 9-year-old son, Michael, died from spinal meningitis. Even though he did not attend church regularly, he became interested in writing music for the Anglican tradition. Now, some of you might know this. All my hope on God is founded. Wonderful text to a hymn tune called Saint Michael, a dedication to his son Michael. One dedication. So we're going to listen to All My Hope on God is Founded. And if we could listen to that, please, Mr.
The Prime Minister with a reading from the book of Isaiah, written at a time of great strife in the biblical lands of Israel. The congregation will now sing the hymn, All My Hope on God is Founded, from a translation of the German text.
I'm going to go on. After his son's death, Howells wrote his wonderful Hymnus Paradisi, a requiem in memory of him. Ralph Vaughan Williams was Howells' good friend. But instead of using folk songs and their musical ingredients in his music, Howells preferred 16th century modality, the modes, and in combination with 20th century practices. Some of my students, because of my great love of Howells, were certain that I would assign them all of the psalm preludes. There are 6 altogether. There are 3 in each of 2 sets. The first contains my favorite and is truly a descriptive and an emotional musical sketch of Psalm 34. The man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. The piece begins in modal D minor and features weeping motives
The reading
and a
from the
grand plea for help, and a final comforting with a quiet cadence ending on a perfectly spaced D major chord. It's on another compact disc of mine, and but I think we'll go on to listen to other psalm preludes. I found two that I really liked because of two reasons. They were so beautifully played. There are two people you might have heard of, and they're on two psalm preludes that I don't know. So I wouldn't be teaching all six of those, I don't think. But anyhow, the first one is by the playing of a psalm prelude by Jan Craybill. And Jan Craybill, for years, not years, but for some time, has been at the Community of Christ in Missouri, Independence, Missouri. And she actually, John Salveson knows her and has spoken very highly of her and her wonderful personality. And I think, and her wonderful love of playing the organ. And I think she really brings this piece alive. She'll tell you about it. And it's based on a beautiful psalm. And Herbert Howells expresses this in music. Okay.
Like William Walton, Herbert Howells was a British composer who got his start as a chorister in a cathedral choir school. Unfortunately, Herbert Howells was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called Graves' disease when he was only 22 years old, and he was given only 6 months to live. But he outdid that by a long shot. He lived until he was 91 years old. He participated in what was then a very experimental treatment involving radium injections in his neck. He had to endure that every 2 weeks for 2 years. It's during that period that he wrote this piece that I'll play for you now. It's based on Psalm 37, verse 11, which reads, "The meek shall inherit the earth and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace." The meek shall inherit the earth. I interpret that as the kind, the silent, the humble, the people who don't toot their own horns, but who have helped us all in this very difficult time. And it's fitting that I play it here in this beautiful building, which was built and dedicated to the pursuit of peace in our world. One of the seldom visited places in this temple is a peace garden in the middle of the office complex. And walking by it the other day, I noticed that a bird had built its nest there. So you'll see photos of that taken just a few days ago as I play.
sorry, I don't want you to be here too much longer. Or I don't want you to be home too much longer watching this or listening to this. Now, let me just tell you two things more about what you just heard and where it was heard. The organ is a Cassavant. I don't know about you, but I'm so used to seeing different organs. I'm to the point where I can tell by the console. We were out to dinner yesterday, and there was this big thing, beautiful piece of wood right in the middle of the dining room, and I said, "Doesn't that look like a Cavaillé console?" to my wife, and of course she was thrilled to death. All right. Now, I wanted to tell you one more thing about Jan. She did scheduled her first Super Bowl recital, she calls, on a time when she didn't know anything about the Super Bowl and when it was. Well, she knew about the Super Bowl, but she didn't know when it was. And so she said, well, I've scheduled it. All the announcements are done. I've practiced. She had it, and she had 157 people there. So she realized, she said, not everybody watches the Super Bowl. So she's ended up now, this was the last one, she's just the most recent one. This was the 22nd annual Super Bowl organ concert. She thought, that's a good time to entertain people, or not entertain, but edify people who are, you know, not interested in watching the Super Bowl. I thought that was kind of interesting. The next, we'll hear another Howells, and this is lovely too. Herbert Howells' 3 psalm preludes. I don't know what everybody, I can't remember what everybody played in undergrad or in grad school, but I remember Jesse Otis, who some of you know, played this piece in grad school and just loved it. And when I heard Nathan Lauba, who's going to play for you on the Skinner organ, when I was so taken by his playing. This is actually the 23rd Psalm. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And in the music, you hear this repeated ostinato pattern, we'll call it, throughout, which is, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And it's simply unbelievable. I might even learn it, or a page of it. Okay, here we go. Let's listen to a little bit of this. Let's get this up here, John.
Like William Walton, Herbert Howells was a British composer.
I tried to do it, just sorry, but you hear that anyhow, and we've gotten to the big part, and it goes on a little more with full organ, then it comes down the mountain to just soft strings, and it just kind of just disappears. Anyhow, two pieces that I don't play, and I just was more interested that you heard these just because of being able to see the playing and hear two great organists. Nathan Lauba, who played the Skinner organ, was on the faculty of Eastman for many years, and of course one of those on the TAO concert series, the various ads, and a lot. He played a lot. But I talked to Chaz this morning, and I found out that he's not even at Eastman anymore. He's in Germany. Chaz, Stuttgart?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you. So anyhow, the very last piece we were going to do is my Master Tallis Testament from my recording. But you know, it's pretty late, and this is of Howells, and it's a part of what was known as the interest in 16th century music during Howells' time, and it's sometimes it's called the English Renaissance, the borrowing of compositional styles and trends of the Renaissance period, and in this case, Thomas Tallis, who was one of the great composers. Yes, he wrote Tallis's canon. You get a little counterpoint doing that. It's a wonderful piece to teach Renaissance counterpoint without telling them exactly what they're doing, except singing the same tune a little later. All right, I think that's all, and I'm going to have Tyler to say a few words, and thank you all for being such good buddies. Okay, Tyler.
Thank you, Mr. Highberger. So what I'm going to try to do here, I'm going to share this presentation with you. So if you want to go back and listen to anything again or watch more of the videos, you will be able to do that. So hold on, I'll put the link in the chat thing on here so that way you can go and open it up if you want to have it.
Oh my goodness, Emily's here.
If I can figure out how to send this to you.
I want to have the privilege of naming everybody I can see.
Well, you can see everybody if you move.
Oh, okay, he says I can see everybody.
Well, I think everyone's here.
I mean, I got to apologize for him. At least I tried with Zoom.
He does try.
Chaz, Bowers, Sylvia Andre, Albert Dell, Bridget DeBenny, got it right. Ruth Posich, my good friend Jan Orris, and Michelle Cardos, and there she is, Kelly Schweigert Doman. And I knew her dad really well. He sang in the Choral Society for the many years I accompanied the Choral Society. And there is Jacob. I talked to Jacob today too. And Emily, so good to see you. And anybody else here that might be here. I feel the feeling that's probably it.
All right. Well, that was perfect timing. So I just sent over the link. If you go to the chat and you would like to open up the presentation, I just sent a PowerPoint that's not a PowerPoint through a link on the internet. So I'm not sure that it worked. You know, Mr. Highberger thinks that I'm good with technology stuff, but it's more like, you know, the half blind leading the blind-ish. So someone wants to open that and make sure that it works.
I got a letter from Marvin Halls, whom many of you know, and said, "Aren't you glad you're retired? Wouldn't it be horrible to have to teach this way?" Well, I tried.
And you did a good job for the last hour and 45 minutes. So thank you, Mr. Highberger. And thank you all for coming and joining us in our second installment of British Organ Literature. Were you able to open that? Because I'm not sure if that'll be there whenever it goes away.
I
Right,
think
you-
you have to send it because I have to ask for permission.
Oh my. Well, I don't know how to get the permission. Right,
It's-
email us?
It should email to you and say like, can you, like, will you give this person permission?
I don't think I do that
And then
for
I'll
every-
send it. I'm gonna put this all up on the website and Facebook and YouTube, and I will send an email to everybody, so you'll have all of this that way. Either way.
My
Wait,
stuff is
Michelle,
around.
wait, if you're going to send that, can I just send this to you and you can just send it as an attachment?
Yeah,
I
that's
like
no problem.
the attachment.
And then we can do that right away, right?
Well, right away whenever she does it.
Yeah.
I'll send you all so much that you won't ever want to hear from me again.
No, you won't ever want to hear from me again.
All right, Michelle, it's Greensburg HEO, right?
Yep.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. I don't use this. Oh, look, I can send it as a PDF. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you all.
Oh, yes,
Oh, wait a minute.
almost.
If I send it as a PDF, then you won't be able to click on things. So you...
No. Yeah, you'll have to send it like as the link.
You can call Michelle when the thing up there.
Okay.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you all.
Good night.